Is March and March about to entirely swing the municipal election in November? The founder of March and March has just endorsed this party. Following their nationwide June 30th anti-illegal immigration demonstrations, it's clear that March and March has become a household name in South Africa. Whether you support them or you oppose them, the reality is that there are very few people today who do not know who they are. And of course, their founder, Jacinta Ngobezezuma, has plenty of fanfare as well. Now, what's particularly interesting about Jacinta is that she has mentioned how March and March does not intend to actually ever become a political party, although she has spoken about forming some sort of a Black Afri-Forum. Still, this hasn't prevented Jacinta from actually deciding to endorse a certain political party and its candidate for the Ethekwini municipal election. And the decision by Jacinta to actually endorse a political party could in fact significantly shift the outcome of the upcoming municipal elections, because after all, if she decides to endorse the party, then the hundreds of thousands of people who marched alongside her could decide to follow her guidance. Now, before we get into this, could I please remind you to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already? It's completely free to do, and all you've got to do is click on the subscribe button below the video. Furthermore, if you would like to support the channel and enjoy benefits such as members-only videos, you can do so by becoming a Power Club member. All you have to do is click on the join button below. Now let's get into it. So here we have an official announcement uploaded by Jacinta herself explaining who she's going to endorse in the election. Let's check it out.
Today, we're seeing the significant growth of March and March. We're seeing the significant strides that have been made simply because people believed in it when it was just it wasn't even a baby. It was still an idea that I was pregnant with. And one of those people today has been put forward to be the mayoral candidate of Durban, Ethekwini. And knowing Ethekwini and the significant problems that we have faced as a municipality, it's very, very important that we choose the right people. This particular person has always been seen standing for the people and with the people. And for us, it is very heartwarming to see that they continue to put their name forward to make sure that they stand with the people. Today, in my very own hometown, KwaMashu, where I grew up as a young girl with great vision and great dreams and hope for the future of the country, it is really, really exciting for me to know that this is the same place that's going to be announcing the Action SA mayoral candidate for the year 2026 and for the 4th of November local government elections. So to the people today of Ethekwini, please, let's celebrate, let's put our hands together for the Action SA mayoral candidate, and let's make sure that when the 4th of November comes, we do not make the mistake of choosing people who do not choose us. So congratulations and thank you, Action SA, for making sure that you are putting your best foot forward, best candidates forward, to make sure that these are great leaders with great capacity to run all the municipalities and all the wards that you have been put forward.
Well, as you can see, it's quite a long video. I'm going to stop it right there. And as we can see, if we scroll up, well, Jacinta's video was shared by Herman Mashaba himself, who is, of course, the leader and founder of Action SA. And so, of course, he's very excited. She's very excited. And this is a pretty big boost for the party. We can see how on X over 229,000 people have viewed this video, and so it's already gaining quite a lot of traction. Now, before we continue with the analysis and explain why Jacinta's endorsement could be important, I do have a few personal things to note. See, firstly, I'm kind of shocked that she decided to support Action SA. I'm shocked, but I'm not shocked, because we did see how she thanked Action SA a lot of the time for their support behind March and March. And we did also see a podcast where she appeared with Herman Mashaba and Deraline James, who is, of course, also part of Action SA. But even with this, you kind of expected her to maybe support MK simply because we know that there is the Zuma link. Again, not very close relatives, but her husband is part of the broader extended Zuma family. And of course, it seems that a lot of people who support March and March do like the MK party. And of course, the MK party was also part of March and March, and they're a lot bigger than Action SA at this moment in time. So even though I know that she has got very good ties with Action SA, I am kind of taken aback that she decided to endorse them over the MK party. But what's really interesting is that this endorsement could not only significantly boost Action SA's election hopes, but it does also seem as if the party is making pretty good inroads on its own right now. So before we jump into the analysis, I just want to mention that March and March's main demonstration on June 30th was in Ethekwini, and of course Jacinta is from there, and so it does make a lot of sense that Ethekwini in the Zulu heartland, that is where the core, the heart of the movement is. But we did also see massive marches in Johannesburg, Pretoria, and parts of Ekurhuleni as well. So it's very much got a lot of mobilization in Gauteng. Now, if we take a look at the recent polling that was done by the SRF and the Common Sense, we see how in Ethekwini, there really doesn't seem to be a presence for Action SA. And so maybe Jacinta's voice could help them to grow their support over there. Because if we take a look at where support levels lie at the moment, at least according to the SRF polling, the MK party is the biggest in Ethekwini right now with 33% support. They're actually followed by the DA with 23%. In third place is the ANC with 18%, and then the IFP has 16%. And so ultimately what we see here is that it's quite a divided electorate, but we don't see Action SA even coming above the margin of error, hence why they weren't even mentioned in this specific poll. I mean, even if we take a look at the smaller parties here, it explains that the EFF has 4% support, the Freedom Front Plus has 3%, Minority Front's 2%, and the ACDP 1%. And so Action SA is just completely non-existent. So it's a little bit of a strange endorsement to be made, but hey, who knows what could happen here? Although, while Action SA doesn't have much of a footprint in KZN, Jacinta's support for the party could make a massive impact in Gauteng, where they're actually enjoying a lot of fanfare. So if we take a look at the Common Census poll in Johannesburg, Action SA is actually the fourth biggest party, with a really sizable chunk of the vote. You see, the DA is at 42%, the ANC at 18%, MK at 13%, and Action SA at 10%. And so they're hot on the heels of the MK party, which again is another March and March supporter. And so I wonder if Jacinta's endorsement couldn't convince certain MK party supporters in Johannesburg to switch to Action SA, because after all, they both happen to be parties that are closely aligned with the movement. And so many of them might think, why is Jacinta supporting Action SA over MK? Perhaps there's a reason behind her decision to do this. And so it will be very interesting to see whether or not Action SA will actually become the third biggest party in Johannesburg at the election. Because after all, a huge March and March rally took place over there as well. If we switch over to Tshwane for a second, which is of course where you've got Pretoria, Hammanskraal, and Centurion, this is also a big hotspot for the March and March movement, as well as Action SA. Now, it's important for us to remember, before we even take a look at the polling data, that Action SA has the mayor there, Dr. Nasipi Moya. And while there are people who are very divided over her, she does have a fair amount of fanfare as well. So just having Nasipi Moya as the mayor could be a very good electioneering tactic by Action SA, because they could drive a campaign behind her and speak about her performance as mayor. Of course, if we take a look at the polls over here, we see that Action SA does poll fairly strongly in Pretoria. We see that, yes, the DA is top with 43%, followed by the ANC at 32%. But hot on their heels in third and fourth place are the Freedom Front Plus with 8%, and then Action SA with 7%. Now, unlike a lot of the other metros, the MK party is smaller than Action SA over here. They only have 5%. And so Jacinta's endorsement, I would argue, could actually be the strongest in Pretoria. And the reason I say that is because if MK party members are following what's going on and those in Pretoria say, okay, it's a choice between MK and Action SA, and Jacinta prefers Action SA, and we see that they're polling better here, well then let's just support the bigger party. Let's support Action SA. And we also need to remember that while MK is not in government in Pretoria, Action SA is, and Dr. Nasipi Moya is the mayor. And so you have some very well-known people who have got support here. And so ultimately, I'm arguing that maybe Pretoria could be a battleground for Action SA as well. Now, the one place I haven't mentioned yet is Ekurhuleni, because yes, March and March has a massive presence here. Action SA does have a fair amount of support in Ekurhuleni as well, which we saw in the 2021 election, and Koalani Kumalo also happens to be supported heavily by Jacinta and other March and March members as well, because after all, he's very famous and he does a lot of those crime crackdowns on TV, at least before he joined Action SA. So he's a celebrity, he's well known. Action SA has a footprint in Ekurhuleni. The only problem is that we haven't seen any polling data come out of there, so we don't really know where the support levels are at. But again, Germiston and Tembisa were some of the biggest areas for March and March action on June 30th. And so Jacinta's influence could be felt over there as well. But beyond polling data, because after all, polls don't necessarily accurately reflect what's going to happen on the day, we do actually have by-election results that also point to a rise in Action SA support. Not only because of March and Jacinta's endorsement, but because of groundwork that they've been doing months before all of this happened. So if we take a look at Ekurhuleni Ward 109, which is of course an area that's lacked polling data, we see how Action SA seems to be rising in support over here, because as we saw in this by-election analysis that I did a couple of months back, Action SA went from being almost non-existent here to becoming the second largest party behind the ANC, and they outdid both the EFF and MK in the by-election a couple of months back. We also see Action SA's rise in support in other parts of Gauteng as well. So in Merafong City, Ward 10, we saw how Action SA happened to come in third place, whereas in the 2024 election, they only got 1%. Now, all of a sudden, they got 16%, and they're behind the ANC and the EFF. And of course, the DA, who took part in this by-election as well, were pretty much battered from all sides, even though they were bigger than Action SA in both 2021 and 2024 in this area. Now, although we've been speaking about Gauteng a lot, I want to take a look at the Northwest. And there's a very good reason why I do so. But first, let's take a look at this important by-election which happened. You see, Action SA merged with Forum for Service Delivery, which was a popular party in Northwest, even though it was just a localized party. And following the merger, they won their first ever by-election and their first ever ward in actual fact. You see, Action SA were able to get 33.49% of the votes in this election, and they beat the ANC by just 2 votes. So a historic result for them. Now, the reason why I'm mentioning the Ekurhuleni, Merafong, and Mogola by-elections is for a very important reason. You see, Action SA, even before Jacinta and March came about, were doing a lot of groundwork to recover their support. And we've seen a pattern of how they've been able to mobilize support in predominantly black townships in Gauteng, but also in Northwest, and particularly in Setswana-speaking areas. And so ultimately what we've seen is how mergers with the likes of Forum for Service Delivery and of course canvassing in these different areas has actually yielded some fruit for Action SA. Furthermore, we've also seen how they're doing really well in polling in certain areas such as Tshwane and Johannesburg. And so Jacinta's support could actually increase their election result quite significantly depending on what her supporters decide to do on November the 4th. And what's really interesting about all of this is how coalitions can be built going forward. You see, at the moment, Action SA is quite a small party, but they seem to be rising all the time, whereas the likes of the EFF and MK seem to be faltering, particularly in Gauteng. And this is quite important. You see, we know that the DA and Action SA have their tension because of Action SA deciding to pretty much kick out Cilliers Brink from the mayorship in Tshwane. But if we just ignore that for a moment, whether you love Action SA or hate them, they're a lot more of a centrist and like-minded party to the DA and the Freedom Front Plus than, let's say, an MK or an EFF or even an ANC. And so if Action SA are willing to work with the likes of the DA, this could significantly strengthen any specific coalitions that the likes of the DA, ACDP, IFP, and Freedom Front Plus could potentially look to build. Let's also not forget about the fact that all of these parties were in the multi-party charter, aka the Moonshot Pact, before the 2024 election. So they do have certain things in common. It's not like they cannot work together or something like that. And so ultimately, if Action SA continues on this rise, this is actually a very good thing, because it seems that they are taking votes away from the ANC predominantly and could be taking away EFF and MK votes as well. And so the stronger that Action SA gets, the stronger their potential coalition could be with the likes of the DA, the Freedom Front Plus, and other like-minded parties. Of course, there's no guarantee that they'll work with those parties, and maybe they will work with the sort of leftist RET style parties. But Action SA will have to make an important strategic calculus, because ultimately they know that those parties are known for very poor governance. And if Action SA wants to be viewed as a service delivery first kind of a party, which they often talk about in their campaign messaging, they'll need to select the right partners to do the job. Thank you very much for tuning into this video. If you found it interesting, please remember to subscribe to the channel for more content. Until next time, I'm Matthew Cohen, and this is the Power Pod.